Good evening. So, as promised, I'm making my counseling videos. I'm in between clients right now, so I have a few minutes to talk. And the first topic that I wanted to briefly discuss is grief and loss. That's a really biggie because when we're experiencing grief and loss, we don't know exactly what to do. So you have those feelings, those initial feelings when you've lost a loved one. You have an overwhelming sense of emotions just flowing through. A lot of times you don't know what to do with them. You don't know if you want to cry. You don't know if you want to scream. You don't know if you want to be aggressive. You don't want to talk to anyone about it. You just want to pretty much isolate yourself and kind of separate yourself from the world to be able to deal with what's going on with you alone, and it may be away from other people. Particularly, and I mostly do my topics towards the African American community, because there is the stigma associated with any type of counseling or even with diseases. So my goal is to educate our community so that we can know that counseling isn't an evil thing. It's not something that should be shied upon in our community. Everybody needs to talk to someone. So the different stages of grief is denial and isolation is the first stage. There are 5 stages. You have denial and isolation, and during that stage of grief it's unbelievable. I can't believe that this happened. I was just talking to the person yesterday. Everything was fine. Even if you're preparing for the death of someone, maybe through a terminal illness or something like that, you're still going to have the denial and isolation piece is not wanting to be around other people, just kind of want to be alone with your feelings. Then the second stage of grief is the anger. You're mad at God, you're mad at family members. Some people even get angry towards the person that has died. Why did you leave me? And then you essentially become angry with yourself. That's one of the hardest phases or stages of grief, is the anger piece. And it's important to know that even though we have these stages of grief, they don't particularly go in any order. Some people may skip certain stages of grief. Some people may live with grief for years. It's difficult. So then we're going to go with the bargaining, especially with maybe younger kids or with significant others. I wish it was me. Why didn't you take me instead? So we go through the bargaining phase, and I'll change this. I would have done this differently if this person can come back. So we have the bargaining stage, and that's stage 3 of grief. And then we go to our 4th stage, which is the depression. This is kind of, it doesn't necessarily have to be after the smoke settles, after the funeral, or after the person has died. You can be depressed initially. They can coincide with one another as well. It's just the fact that person is no longer there. I have no one to talk to. That was my best friend, especially with husbands and wives, or boyfriends, girlfriends, fiancés, and children. The person that is grieving, or the closest person to them, will start to feel a sense of depression, start carrying on those symptoms of depression, such as isolation, feeling worthless, hopelessness, sleeping more often than normal, not wanting to eat. So you kind of carry those same characteristics or symptoms associated with depression whenever you're going through grief and loss. And then you have the final stage, which is the acceptance stage. That's when everything is fine. I've dealt with it. I've been able to communicate with my friends and family. And we like to use the saying in our African American community, I'm strong now. My family, I have to be strong for my kids. I have to be strong for my mom or whomever is in the family. So we get to what we think is the acceptance phase, stage of grief. Before I kind of sum everything up, I just want to touch on strength and weakness. I'm a firm believer that your emotional state does not play a role on your strength and your weakness. I look at strength and weakness as endurance. Just because someone is crying because they are experiencing a certain emotion, or because they're experiencing a certain feeling, such as sadness, being hurt, the response is to cry. because someone isn't able to move